Welcome to the Improving Edge. This is where we talk about how AI and technology actually show up in the organizations. What's working, what's not, what we're learning along the way. I'll be sharing conversations with people doing the real work, turning innovations into outcomes. Today I have with me Blake McMillan, Vice President at Improving. Thanks for being here, Blake.
I'm happy to be here, David. Looking forward to this.
Me too. So, looking forward to a conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about AI and people.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of talk about how AI is replacing people. Today, we're going to be talking about how we're going to grow people in this age of AI, right? How we invest in our talent, right? Our most important thing. Most people, when you talk to them, especially the executives, they talk about people are our biggest asset.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it that you're seeing from your side as businesses are thinking about how we grow talent in the age of AI?
Yeah. So I look at it where, one of the things that people immediately get, concerned about is AI going to take my job? Right. Like people get concerned about that. People get, scared about that. That's like a lot of what's going on in the news. But what I look at it is that element that you're bringing in, which is this is a way to grow talent. This is a way to enable people. This is a way to help people develop their skills, help them be better at what they do. And when they do that, then they're going to be able to contribute at a higher level.
So as you're thinking about those skills, right, you're talking about growing people's skills. What are the skills that we're typically focused on that are maybe different now than they were 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that I've seen is just your ability to produce some type of content. And it's going to be different for whatever your role is, right? If people are doing graphical things, visual things, like sure, there's that. But I mean, I look at it from my own personal perspective of creating content. Like one of the things that, I was looking to do was create kind of a set of courseware that we would have to offer publicly so that people could learn AI. And I had to use AI to do it. I was learning about AI as I was creating the courseware for AI, and I got to know a whole lot more about how to effectively interact with AI than when I started.
Yeah. I think they call that dog fooding, right? Where you're eating your own dog food and kind of learning as you go.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the things, and I was talking about this earlier, that I've realized is it really stretches you because effectively when you're using AI, you're using a GPT, it's delegation, right? And so you're having to explain what it is that you want in a way that makes sense so you get the outcomes that you want.
Yeah,
it's effectively delegation. And I know for a lot of the folks that I've worked with through the course of my career, delegation is something it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about how it is you go about teaching people to use AI.
Yeah, it's funny that thing that you kind of started off with there is that when you delegate, like if I just said, hey, Dave, can you get me something to drink? And then I run off and then you bring the bubbly grapefruit, right? I'm like, dude, grapefruit, really? And you're like, oh, you just said get something to drink.
Right. You were not specific.
Yeah. And so anything that you bring back that's liquid, like, it's a drink, right? But if I can get more specific, if I can give you more clarity, David, I am dragging today, man. Can you hook me up with some coffee? And like, yeah, maybe a little cream, a little sugar. Now, what's going to come back, right?
Right.
Again, you're going to bring the grapefruit bubbly because you got the good sense of humor. Like, here you go. You don't need the caffeine. You're fine.
Yeah.
But seriously, like what would happen is I would get a better outcome because I was more specific. And that's one of the things that I help people understand is if you are in this space where you think that you're just going to throw some random request at AI and it's going to produce brilliance, not so much.
Yeah.
Right.
And we talk about that, not that rock. Right? Somebody says, hey, give me a rock. And you bring it to them and they're like, not that rock. It was like, oh, so a different rock? No, not that rock. It was like, please be more specific. Like, what rock are you looking for?
There's a funny thing though, is there is value in being not that rock. One of the things that I found is that sometimes what can get me away from what I call the blank page paralyzation, where I don't know where to start, is I will throw out something completely random, completely not thought out, and just say, help me think through this.
Okay.
and it throws some stuff and then it'll happen, right?
Right.
Not that. Option 3 is insane. Option 4, boring. Option 5, let's go more like that, right? Like, so I use it as, I'll use AI as a collaboration partner to explore ideas. I call it a thinking partner.
Yeah. And that's a great way to think about it, right? So especially as we're framing this, like you were saying earlier, as AI is not a replacement for people.
Yes.
It's an augmentation of people. So how I can leverage it as a collaboration partner or as a content creator, these different use cases. What are some of the other use cases that you're finding personally for it to help grow your skill sets?
So one of the things I look at it as is having instant critical feedback. And by the way, you have to make sure that you tell AI that's what you're after, because AI is very affirming. You can throw any idea, Blake, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We should keep going with this. But if you will kind of let it know, hey, I'm not just looking for affirmation here. I'm looking for you to poke holes into my approach. I'm looking for you to tell me when I've taken a step too far. Like, and that's again, something with training that I try to make sure of is that it scales in a way that people can keep up, right? Because I think I've told you this before, but I have attempted to become a programmer before. I tried it, right? I tried Python, I tried Swift, and yeah, I know some people are like, oh, so you tried the little kiddie languages. Yeah, I tried because I didn't start off with something, like, C++ or anything that's crazy. So I started with something that was easy and I was tracking, right up until Hello World. And I'm like, I got this, I'm doing it. And then all of a sudden it goes and makes this massive jump. And I'm like, I don't even know what happened.
You got left behind.
Like, I'm so completely lost.
Yeah.
Well, that's, kind of the thing that I look for when I'm trying to develop training is that we're building on something, right? And when I was building our first course, I went from Hello World to Crazy Town, and it said, this might be a jump that many will find difficult.
Okay.
And so I was able to say, oh, okay, let me back down from that. But if you don't basically authorize it to give you critical feedback, it won't. It'll just affirm everything that you do and tell you how brilliant you are.
Yeah, very much I find that, right? The default mode is kind of a golden retriever, right? I just wanted to, something to make you
I love that idea.
And you'll say, oh, wait, that's not true. And it's like, you're right, that's not true.
Yeah.
I made it up. So then how do you know what AI is telling you, whether or not it's true? Like, how are you vetting some of these things? Because if you're training folks to use AI, obviously you've got to give them that filter for veracity. What does that look like from a skills perspective?
Yeah, I think there's some strengths that AI has, and then there's some things that AI can do, but you've got to kind of be careful. When you're just asking it to help you create ideas, are any ideas like not what you wanted to explore, what you wanted to hear? Yeah, maybe. Right, it's okay because I want there to be a dialogue. That's what I teach people. Don't think that the first thing it tells you is the answer. What you want to do is have a conversation, right? And one of my, I guess, habits is I always ask it for options. Don't give me a thing. Give me 5 things. Okay. And then when I get those 5 things, I give it feedback. I evaluate. 1 is trash, 2 is illegal, 3 is okay, 4 is good, 5, I don't even know what you're talking about. Let's do more like 4. Right. And then it expands to give me 5 more options. Now, sometimes it feels the need to say, well, these are options 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm like, no, we're not going to count them up. I just trashed 1 through 3 and 5. Like, replace those. Yeah. You got to give it some instructions. But what I'm looking for is for it just to like roll with me, right. Give me those ideas, help me think outside of what I started with.
But I hear you saying, like, we have to be the critical thinking at hustle.
Yeah.
Like, we're the gatekeeper of what gets through, what doesn't get through.
Yeah.
So then how do you help people to develop that critical thinking? Because I know I've heard a lot of folks talk about critical thinking is not a skill that's typically taught. It can be a challenge, but it's something that you can learn. Yeah. So, like, how do you help people to think through, how do you help people to develop their critical thinking?
Yeah, that is kind of tricky because really what we're looking for is for you to get better at expressing what your end state is, what your outcome is. And so I think that's one of the things that you have to do is you have to be able to understand, what am I hoping for? Right? Because if I just go in without any clear objective or any clear understanding of what I'm hoping to achieve, well, then I think I'll be frustrated by what AI comes back with me, comes back to and gives me. And so, like, one of the things I'm looking for is helping people get better at expressing what they're after, giving feedback. But the thing that you're asking, I don't know. Like, honestly, like, I don't know how to tell people, like, hey, be more creative. Hey, have better ideas. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think that on the creative point, that is another skill. I've said before, like, creativity only exists in biology. And, OpenAI had a paper that they released last year where they talked about having assessed their model, and it is math all the way down. Like, it's provable that it's math. And there's no creativity in math. I mean, people from like Enron might argue there's some creativity that we can do. Like, people go to jail. But like, there's no true creativity. You really need the biology for that creativity. But you just talked about a way to leverage the AI to help build my creativity.
Yeah, like, you can nurture it through a conversation, right? You can nurture it by exploring other ideas. And to me, that's one of the benefits that I found with artificial intelligence is I have a collaboration partner that's up at 2 a.m.
Right.
Because sometimes, like, sometimes it just happens where my brain's like, oh, that'll be enough sleep for you, mister. And so what I want to do, just lay there in bed or like do something. Yeah. And so I'll get up and I'll start working on something. Now, if I called one of my, friends at work, and said, hey, let's collaborate on something, they'd be like, what are you doing, crazy? Go back to sleep. Right.
Wrong number.
Yeah. Yeah. But AI is like, oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Yeah. And then we get to explore new areas, new ideas. And so to me, that's one of the things where AI can help you, I don't know, augment your creativity. But as far as it being the source, yeah, I don't think so. I think it's got to come from you.
Okay. So we see a lot of companies that are investing heavily in technology. What does investing more in their people look like as we continue to move into this AI age?
Yeah, I think for companies, it's this kind of goes back to the thing that we talked about just at the very beginning here is like, there is an approach that people can have that says, hey, what can AI do that people can do? Because we'll save money by having AI do those jobs. And then, we don't need to pay those people anymore. I think that there instead is the invest in your people to gain the skills to become better at what they do and take away some of the noise from their jobs that, like, it needs to get done, but does it really need a human to do it? Right. And so if we can find those places to help people leverage AI so that they can do their high value work and they don't have as much time spent on some of that noise, some of that like more administrative stuff, they can be better.
Yeah, that's something that we talk about in our workshops, and even just as we're talking with customers. AI is a task compression engine. So there's tasks that we do that are compressible and tasks that aren't. Like, you can't write a model that builds trust with a customer. Like, that's not the thing. That's an innately human activity. And so it's person to person. And so there's nothing we can do necessarily to compress that.
Right.
But if we're talking about, writing a report or summarizing a meeting or some of these other things, very compressible.
Yes.
So as we take those things and we maybe compress, call it 80% of the tasks that you do. Well, one, we still need a human for that 20%. Like, we still need the person. What I hear you saying is, so then how do we identify the skills that they have, the abilities that go beyond maybe what they're already doing, and a way to invest in them so that they can grow their role or grow their capacities? How do you think about identifying in folks, like, what is a skill that they might have that we could invest in? Like, how do you assess that from a training perspective and see those potentials, those capabilities?
Yeah. So, like, an example would be our AI for product managers. Our AI for product managers, it's not going to focus on teaching you how to write user stories faster. Why? because AI is really stinking good at it.
Right.
Right. And so instead of worrying about like formatting things in a certain way, it's about like, do you understand your customer? Do you actually understand what their needs are? Do you have a hypothesis around what will be value to them? Now, what's interesting is that AI can help you explore that space, help you explore
Gotcha.
that space.
Right.
It will not give you the answers because, I mean, sure, it can give you some answers,
Right.
right? It can get really creative and tell you all about this customer that doesn't exist and will never use your product
But to
because
make it all up.
exactly amazing and to a detail level that is astounding, right? But what it can also do is help you explore that. And to me, that's one of the things that, like for a product manager, if you're spending your time, like fiddling around with Jira tickets, I mean, it's a way that you can spend your time, but it's also a way that doesn't actually produce insights, doesn't produce knowledge, doesn't produce ideas to chase after and build for your customers. So how are you going to know your customer? Can you spend more time with your customers now that you don't have to do some of that compressible work?
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Now I hear you saying focusing on things that produce value, not just activity.
That's right.
Right. We can
That's
get
right.
caught up in a lot of that activity, and then maybe instead we offload that activity to our models and allow them to go and take care of those things and complete those things.
Yeah.
So we can focus on the customer.
Yeah, that's right.
Understanding the real problem.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that that I've been exploring with some folks back at the office is we start looking at some different levels of engaging with AI. You know, like kind of one of the first levels is you just become aware of it, right? Like so people that are listening to this, they are in that place at least, right? Because they're like, I'm curious about this. Let me go find out more about what's going on with AI. Like, so you become aware, and then you start to mess with it. You start to use it. You start to engage with it. And like for me, that was kind of my like one of my big switches was when I first started using AI, I was like, well, it's just training data and it's wrong a lot and I don't really see it. Like I'm not that excited by it.
Well, skeptical.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just didn't seem as useful to me. But
Okay.
then once that training data didn't encompass all of its knowledge, and then it started being able to, reach out and do those searches, then I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I see how this can be much more useful. And so I started manually using it. But then that next tier is where you start to automate, right? And just so we're clear, not there yet. Like, and depending on when people watch this, if you watch it, real soon, then I don't know, probably not there yet. But that's kind of my next tier is looking for how to automate and how to take some of those tasks that that don't really require creative input, but just have them done.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your journey as you're like awareness, experimentation, and like moving into automation.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about a time like in the training realm where you saw those lights go on for somebody in the classroom.
Oh, I mean, this happens like every single time, right? And one of the things is just helping people understand. One is the more information that you give, the more context that you give, the better it goes.
Yeah.
Right now, this is going to be a spoiler. So if someone comes to my class like, nah, I think I saw the podcast where you talked about this. One of the things I'll do is I'll have them start off with asking a really vague, generic kind of question.
Okay.
And then AI comes back and, AI's try hard.
Yeah.
So it's like a blah, 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 and it just gives all this information. And then I ask them, so how useful was that? And they're like, oh, well, people
Not that rock.
Oh, well, yeah. But people are trying to be positive. Well, I could see where this could be useful. I'm like, oh, good. And that's when I'm seeing my glass half full people. I'm like, oh, that's right. It's pretty good, isn't it? Right. And then what we do is we start to explore giving it more context, giving it some constraints, letting it know who you want it to be and who you are.
Right.
And then we ask the exact same question. I don't change the question. I just give more context. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. And I see that light bulb moment happen. I see people go, oh, this is why when I've interacted with it before, I've been disappointed because I wasn't given the information. I wasn't given the context of why I'm asking this question. And when you do, it's a game changer. And people start to see what it's actually capable of.
So I hear you saying, help them figure out how to build a frame, right? How to
Yes.
frame all this up,
That's right.
give them context, and make sure you're giving enough in that delegation that it knows its edge conditions, its boundaries.
Right.
What is it I want back? Do I want this as a PDF? Do I want it as text? Do I want it as an image? Like, give me a little bit more. So we're not going to play too much of Not That Rock.
Exactly.
Right.
But that not that rock thing, that is also part of the process.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that, again, that's one of the other light bulb moments is like, yeah, don't just put up with that. If it gave you something that you don't like, tell it. No, I don't want that. That's completely the wrong direction. Now, sometimes people will like tease me because they're like, oh, like when AI takes over, it's coming for you first because you're not nice to us sometimes. And I'm not, right? I'm just like, that's exactly the wrong thing. I don't like that. But I'm being straight with it, right? I'm being like very transparent around the feelings that it's giving me because then I'm giving it some signals. Here's what I love. And you get that positive response from me. Oh, you nailed it. This is so great. It's like, oh, thanks. But I know that's just part of the programming, but it feels different for me.
Right.
But like, but like it starts to learn, okay, he likes this. He doesn't like this. And again, it's that golden retriever, David, right? It's like, it's just looking for, like, I just want to make him happy.
Just pet. That's all I need is pet me and make me feel good.
Give me belly rubs.
That's right. So as a trainer, like you put together these classes, so you have a rubric that you run through, outcomes that you're looking for, some stuff that probably would frame a prompt really, really well, maybe an agent. So if you look in your little crystal ball, having been in the training space for so long and look out several years, are we going to have AI trainers?
You know what's weird is, to me, that is a potential future that I can see. And it's kind of on my fourth horizon.
Okay.
And the reason being is, one of the frustrations I had when I was trying to kind of level up my AI skills is that kind of the only sources of training that I really had was going out to the internet, like, LinkedIn Learning or, Udemy or whatever thing that has video courseware. I would be honest, man, it bored me to tears. Like, there was so much theory, so much vocabulary. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to forget all this stuff. And so I'm just, it was really frustrating. And so one of the things that we try to do with our courses is make them interactive, right? Like it's interactive. So when AI can actually provide that interaction, provide that feedback, but also in a way that's critical and not just mindlessly affirming, then yeah, it might get there. But remember, we're also going to have to make sure that it's trained up with all of the context to understand those learning objectives, to understand what's likely to come, what objections are people going to have? What do you do when someone completely loses the thread? How do you help them back on track? When we can do that, maybe. Yeah.
So you said that's fourth horizon. So talk to me a little bit. What's further in, maybe a little closer in? What are some of the innovations that you think are coming? In this space, talent.
The kind of like that learning journey.
Learning
journey. Yeah. So I think it goes from like just being aware of AI, knowing that it's happening, to getting in there and actually using it effectively in like kind of a manual transaction mode. I think that's happening, and that's kind of where a lot of the level 1 public training that I've created starts with, is going from, I know about AI and how I'm using it. Or maybe I dabbled with it, right? I turned myself into a cartoon. I got it to talk to me like a pirate. Yay! Right? But did it do anything for me? No. Right? So how do I get you from playing around with it to actually seeing where it can make noticeable improvements in your effectiveness? So I think that's kind of one of the steps. The next step, and it's the one that I'm kind of nervous about, but I'm excited about too, is exploring some of that automation, exploring some of like that, the way where you can get agents to work for you and build the trust to know that when it gives you this output, that it's learned enough about you to where it's giving you the output that you're expecting and not just wildly hallucinating fun things that it could think of. So,
So, are there any skills that you foresee like going away? So, if you go back to like the late 60s, early 70s, there was this job called computer operator.
yeah.
And as we progressed, like that went away because like you operate a computer, I operate a computer. Like there is just some default things that you're able to do. And I see prompting and using AI as that.
Yeah.
But then there are other skills I think that are going to potentially atrophy and not need to be trained. So what might some of those skills be?
Yeah, this is interesting because one of the first things that just immediately pops in my mind, like, do you remember that person that would be in the meeting and they wouldn't really contribute, they wouldn't really talk, but you would just see them scribbling stuff down the whole time, like they're just taking like notes, and then after the meeting, they would send these amazing summaries where you're just like, oh wow, man, like I was just so engaged in the meeting, I didn't have time to even think about like taking all this stuff down. I'm so glad that we have this because this summarizes everything, including the action items.
Right.
That's gone now, man. I mean, like, I'm just going to be honest, like, that is gone because the way that AI can capture those meeting, capture those action items, it's, it's amazing. And I love it. And for that reason, like, whenever I have like a Teams meeting, I'm like, oh, this is great. And I got to remember, I'm going to set transcription.
Yep.
I'm going to turn on transcription. And then, it's going to, start building this. Now, I do want to say this though, there's an interesting thing that I noticed that I started to do. I started to realize that there are keywords I can use to help the AI be even better as transcription. So I'm like, oh, so David, that was an action item.
So you're queuing it.
Yeah. I'm doing that in the transcription. I'm like, oh, okay, so when that action item is done, I have a dependency on that. And so when that's done, and when do you think you're going to get that done? Right. And this is just, how we interact in meetings, right? It's like, well, when do you think, well, I think I'm gonna have that Friday. Okay. When you get that done on Friday, then I'll be able to start my action item. This is Blake. And I don't know why it still calls me Christopher. I think it's something weird, and so this will be my action item. And once I have this, then I'll start it. And it should take me about a week.
Well, I'm excited for our next Teams meeting because I want to watch you play the transcript in our next meeting. And I do too. I use the heck out of that. Copilot does it fantastic.
Mhm.
I actually have a device, Plod. I don't know if you've seen this, Plaud, Plod, like applaud
Yeah.
without the E or the AP.
Yeah.
Plod is a device. It sits on the back of my phone and it has mics. And so it can hear for like 45 feet all the way around it. Well, if you're in a physical meeting, not a Teams meeting, you don't have a Teams transcription.
Yeah.
This does that.
Okay.
And so it captures it. It's been kind of a game changer for my in-person meetings because the same thing. It'll summarize. Here's the action items, but it also has the ability then for me to ask it questions and it will go find stuff, kind of like Copilot does.
Nice.
And so I've been using that here recently for my in-person because I do miss the transcription and the summarization and all the benefits that Copilot gives me.
That's an interesting thing, right? Like we see these benefits, right? And then we start to experience them and then we start to feel a little uncomfortable when we don't have that, right? I mean, just the way you're describing it, like I'm just like I'm sold. Like I on my way home, I'll be like, all right, I gotta give me one.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of that phantom limb syndrome. Like if you've ever left your phone at home and then you get to the gym or wherever it is you're going and you're like, I'm very uncomfortable right now. I realize I'm disconnected, like, holy smokes, which I think is actually healthy. Having some disconnect time from our phone. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It is actually a good thing.
I wouldn't know.
But you definitely feel it. It's that uncomfortable moment. But I do think it's interesting to think about what are some of these skills, that maybe we don't need to focus on so much, that we don't need to lean into as we're growing. Because if I'm not doing that, what that means is I now have capacity to go invest somewhere else, right? To go invest and maybe grow and okay, then can I learn another language? Whether that's Swift or Python. I recently wrote a Swift app
Oh,
Having never built anything in Swift, so I haven't built an iPhone app in 15 years.
yeah, yeah.
So I did Swift as well. So I'm not throwing rocks. I'm in the pews. I'm not in the pulpit. But there's these opportunities then to go invest in other skills. And I hear you saying the collaboration being a great skill to invest in, but then also just using that time for experimentation to say, how might I? How might I do this? How might I do this? Well, can it do it? Let's try. Let's see what comes out of it. Sometimes it'll be a little bit more that golden retriever type answer. Sometimes we've got to push it to be a little bit more critical, but it's definitely important that we try, that we test it out so that we can grow in our skills.
Yeah, 100%. And that to me is to me the game changer, right? Is that when you start to utilize AI in the way that we've been talking about, like in this time together, that it will produce open space. And then it's up to you to make sure that you use that open space in a way to be better contributing. Like, for example, like with some of the time that I can save without having to track down meeting notes and that, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if that gives me a little bit of time, maybe I'll like focus on like creating some content, or I'll focus on creating an article, or I'll like draft something that I should do for a short video, which I need to do more. Yeah, but like, that's what it does, is it creates that space for you. But to me, AI is not going to nag you. It's not going to tell you how to use your space, right? You create that space, but it's up to you to use it. It's up to you to take advantage over that time that you've just gained.
So conscious capitalism is a big deal at improving, right? We talk about how we are founded or grounded, I would say, in the philosophy of conscious capitalism. Conscious capitalism is very much about people, right? That's the conscious part, not just the capitalism part. It's important for the business, make money primarily so that it can invest in people. And so from your perspective, how do you square conscious capitalism and its ideas and its philosophy in this age of AI?
Yeah, I think this goes back into the humanization of our approach, right? Because I don't want to replace human interactions with AI. I think that's a miss. But what I can do is I can enrich my human interactions, right? Because maybe I can become better prepared, right? So instead of me coming to a meeting and not really knowing what's going on, maybe I'll spend some time getting up to speed, and I might use AI for that, right? But now I can get in and I can have a better conversation because I'm a little bit more grounded in the topic, and or maybe I can make more time to have those good quality interactions because I'm not worried about having to, read 15 pages of a report as soon as I'm done with this. And instead I can say, hey, let me get the summary, because I don't need every bit of this. I need to find the parts that I need. Right. And so I look for that compressible work, right? Compress it. So then I can have that more personal, that more human interaction with people.
That's great. And so as an agilist, I know the manifesto, hey, we talk about people over process.
Yeah.
And so I hear you saying, nope, that's still a valid triage, is process is important. People are more important. And so, and how is it that we lean into that?
Yeah.
So talking about agility, like how do you see AI reshaping agility for us in the business space?
Yeah, there is definitely some shift here, right? And I think one of the shifts that we see is that what was really hard before is now suddenly much easier. And by the way, just so you know, I am talking through the things that I've learned from other people. Not being a programmer, I don't know what it's like to code an API or to, set the foundation layer of the blah, 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 whatever, technical, right? But what I've heard from our developers is this thing that used to take me 2 hours, I can now do in 2 minutes. And it's kind of like the foundational stuff, right? It's the syntax, certainty, things like that. So that used to be the hard part, is to do a lot of that really highly technical syntax work. But That is not where people are absolutely needed as much anymore. Now it's the problem solving. Now it's the understanding the problem, understanding how the problem affects the customer, understanding how that affects our company, our organization, our stakeholders, and solving that problem. That doesn't go away. I think that's the part that's still there, right? That's still that thing that we're going to look for humans to do. But getting some help and some of that technical domain, I think that's what we're seeing. We're starting to see that shift.
Those are those uncompressible tasks, right? That understanding and the culmination of all of that understanding into a solution to the problem. So, Blake, as we're thinking about how we're investing in people, right, and we're growing talent in this age of AI, what are a couple of key takeaways that you would want somebody listening to this to walk away with?
Yeah, I think one of the first things is the value of people. And like, we discussed this during, during our conversation about like, there's work that's compressible. That doesn't mean that you compress away a person. Because that person still has value. That person still has ways that they can contribute. And so investing in people, helping them learn, helping them grow, like to me, I think that's one of the big takeaways is like you have people that have a knowledge and understanding of your business and of your customers. When they have that, they have value, even if what they do is highly compressible work. So invest in them, help them learn new skills so they can contribute in some different ways than they're used to. And then for them, it's about being open. It's about being open to change because that is one of the big things that comes from the world of agility. And it also, definitely applies here in this world of AI is that work is going to change. Your job is going to change. Change is inevitable. And so when you can learn to adapt to that change, and, when we look at AI, it's an enabler for that. Like to me, I think that's one of the big things I want people to take away from this is that you need to invest in your skills. And then for the organization, you need to provide those opportunities for people to invest in their skills.
That's great, Blake. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, this has been fun.